step in your river, and it takes me deep. Your heart is my temple, your tears rinse my feet. I walk out, I'm able to carry your peace. It reminds me of a song that I heard long ago. Maybe I've always known that you were right there. A simple melody playing over and over in my dreams. But somehow out of reach, eluding me until I release. You come close to me when I release, and I let you take the lead when I release. My heart starts to see when I release. When I release, you said, "Come to my garden, eat from my tree, step in my river, let it take you deep. Your heart is my temple, your tears rinse my feet. You walk out, you're able to carry my peace. It's an ancient sound heard from the ones who came before. Now it's here once more to pierce your soul. A simple melody playing over and over in your streets, like a whirlwind turning things, tearing down the dark. That's where I release, and my heart starts to sing when I release. I let you take the lead when I release. You come close to me when I release. When I release, it's all in your feelings. It's all how I receive your sound. All in your feelings, your emotions, they find me out. It's all in your feelings. It's all how I receive your sound. All in your feelings, your emotions, they find me out. When I let it go, yeah. When I let it go, yeah. Then I let it go. Oh, oh, yeah. I let it all go now. I let it go. Hey, now I let it go. Whoa, 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 whoa. I let it go. Whoa, I let it all go now. Oh,
Yeah. We are live. Shout out to everybody who is in the building. We're here. We're going to do a live stream. We're going to talk about some stuff, things that are going on. Of course, if you're tuned in, you know what time it is. You are watching Young Lion TV. Let's get it.
Young lion, everywhere I look, they're dying. Everywhere I look, they're dying. Young lion, everywhere I look, they're dying. Everywhere I look, they're dying. Young lion, won't you get up and start fighting? Everywhere I look, they're hiding.
Yes, sir. Young Lion TV. It's Tuesday night, so you know what it is. We get it in every Tuesday night with our live stream. We're here in the Lion's Den, and we're here to talk about stuff that's going on. For those that are just tuning in for the first time, thank you for joining us. The Young Lion podcast is a group of people that we all believe the same things, and we like to talk about life. We like to talk about culture, but also like to talk about a little bit of politics and a little bit of what's viral, what's trending, and all kind of framed around our belief and our faith in Jesus Christ. So, you know, that's what this podcast is about. It's all centered around Ezekiel 19 with the young lions. So, go read up on that, and then you can become a part of the pride. So we appreciate you guys. If you're watching right now, hit that like button and share this video, because we don't even get notifications when we go live. That's how much they shadow ban us. We don't even get notifications. So we need y'all to share the video and like it. And shout out to anybody watching on Rumble right now, YouTube, Facebook. If you're watching on Twitter, Twitch, all those places, just do the like thing, share, do what you can to help us spread this around. But this evening, you can see I got a little tighter shot this evening because I'm by myself over here on the couch. And on the other couch, I also got my brother, my big brother, but he's everybody's big brother. He is Jake Evans, Jake Evans the third. I was about to say junior.
What's up, guys?
Yeah, what's up, guys? He's here.
What's up? I'm the only one here.
He's here with me, but that's all we need. That's all we need.
But we got one more.
Where 2 or 3 are gathered, you know, and we got 3 here because we have the best producer in the world. Not only because she does such a great job on this show, but of course because she produced us. She's our mother, and she is Angelique Lopez. Shout out to Simone, who's in the chat right now. He's feeling a little under the weather. He pulled something.
A little pain.
Having a little old man issues. So he's in pain tonight. So man, our prayers are with you, Chang. Hope you feel better, brother. But yeah, and James is a little under the weather. Stan was busy, so you know we're gonna hold it down with just 2 lions and the lioness in the building. But so Easter just happened. Mm-hmm. Easter Sunday.
We were here.
Resurrection Sunday. Everybody was here. The whole world. It felt like the whole world was over here, man. Mon said he was gonna come, but he was, you know, he couldn't. He couldn't do it. So, but it was good, man. It was good having everybody here. We had some good food. We did like an Easter brunch, and everybody cooked something, and the whole family was here, and all the in-laws, and you know, it was a good time. Thank you guys for coming.
Yeah, man, it was fun.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, good food. I made some Trini chicken and waffles. Play on.
Oh, it's so good.
Play on chicken and waffles. All my Trinis out there, if you know what Pelori is, well, I'm sure you know if you're Trini, you know what Pelori is. But I made Pelori waffles with fried curry chicken, and did a tamarind maple syrup and like a shadow Benny sauce on top of that. So it was good, man. It was gone in a second. Nothing left.
Yeah.
Simone said,
favorite.
"Oh, they liked it."
Yeah. Well, they like the chicken.
The chicken, yeah. That waffle's different. It's more of a savory waffle.
Yeah.
But the tamarind sauce goes good.
The turmeric throws them off, you know.
Yeah. I mean, if you like Pelori, you'll like that.
Yeah, I liked it.
Yeah, of course.
Simone said that's not keto, Mom.
Nobody did keto yesterday. Shut up, Simone.
You mean Sunday?
I mean Sunday. Seemed like it was just yesterday.
It does seem
Time
like it
is
was
flying
yesterday.
by. That's for sure.
Yeah. I ended up doing an egg hunt yesterday for the kids.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, because we didn't do one. And then Lucas was like, he wanted to do an egg hunt.
Oh,
So I already have a bunch of the eggs in there. So I was like, all right, when I got home from work, I just
did a little
did it real
egg hunt.
quick. Yeah.
That don't got nothing to do with Jesus.
Nope.
Say that. What do you? Well, before we get into anything, let me just say, guys, if you get the time, if you want to support what we're doing, head on over to our Patreon and become a member. Sign up to be a young lion. You can get on there and you can sign up and become one of the tier, whatever tier floats your boat. Sign up over there and become a member of the Patreon family. And shout out to all our Patreon members who join in. We're close with a lot of them. Emma, we play soccer with all the time. Courtney is like part of the family. Paul, we did music with Paul. We try to connect with our Patreon members.
Your mama's a Patreon too.
No, you do Cash App, Mom. It's different.
But it's still,
it's not
I
Patreon.
pay every month.
It's not Patreon.
Not Patreon.
Oh
It's
my
Cash App.
God.
But it's fine. You can Cash App as well. So I'm glad you brought that up. If you want to just support the cause that way, it's $youngliontv on Cash App. You can support that way. But we do appreciate you, giving to the cause, Mom, because, it costs money to keep all these lights and cables and all this stuff working and the internet up to speed so that we can do this every
You
week.
need to upgrade too sometimes.
Yeah, we do. I mean, there's things we need to upgrade. So we need to support.
You just upgraded your computer?
I did. I just not this one. My other. I got another laptop, brand new MacBook Pro, which is nice.
Good.
Also, we have merch. If you guys want to support that way, we also have some cool like this T-shirt right here. It's the Young Lion T-shirt there. But yeah, the people have been really liking the merch. I saw people posting up like mugs and shirts and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So that's
really?
cool. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So they've been buying?
Yeah, some people.
Good.
So that's good. I mean, we really don't make money off the merch, so
Yeah.
it's just a way to kind of get the brand awareness out there and let people, rep being a young lion. And also, it has the QR code on it. So if people are like, what's that? What's a young lion? You could be like, just scan the code. And then it'll take them right to our page. So, and the song that you heard at the beginning of the stream is our new single. It's called Release. It just came out on Friday, on Good Friday. So go stream that. It's everywhere. It's on all the platforms. We've been getting added to a lot of cool little playlists on Spotify, so that's cool, man.
Yeah.
I'm excited about that. A couple Christian ones, couple just like chill ones. There was one like songs for driving.
Songs that make you cry.
Yeah, I was telling them there was a playlist called Songs to Cry To. We got added to. Yeah. Just, it's cool. It's cool people adding it. Some of the playlists have a good following too. So
I've been meaning to ask you, where did you get the picture from the water?
that picture is done through AI.
Oh.
We used AI to make the artwork. Something that we talked about doing before, but we really couldn't get it right. And I think we found a good tool that's probably one of the better AI art tools on the internet, and we just Jake had an idea that he wanted it to be like someone submerged in water, almost like a baptism, So he gave me the description of it, and I kind of like put it into the AI generator, and it came out kind of like this. And Simone just made a couple adjustments to it, and so it says a lot. It's clearly someone who's like submerged in water, but it looks like something's releasing out of them. You know what I mean? Like
Right,
it fits.
nice,
It fits.
nice.
It came out looking cool. I like it. So we're gonna put that on the T-shirt soon too.
Oh, nice.
But yeah, shout out to Moon for doing the graphics. Simone said Ishtar egg hunt.
It actually doesn't come from there.
Where does it come from?
It comes from, because eggs are, it's like born again, because first the egg comes out, then the egg cracks. That's actually, because I was watching something.
Oh,
I thought the egg came from fertility. like because it's springtime. The pagan fertility thing.
Well, what I saw
Yeah.
and the connection to the eggs had to do with, because you can make stuff whatever you want to make it.
Yeah.
Right. People do that all the time. Like, I was just watching something, they were talking about the Pope stuff and what they wear, and comparing that to Dagon.
Yeah.
But it's really like not true. But at the same time, where you get that from?
Yeah. It's still weird.
Or
red shoes with the hats and the
But a lot of stuff, it's like, there's conjecture, but we don't know where it came from. And again, we're free to do whatever we want.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if you're doing an egg hunt, is there a big deal in that?
You know how certain Christians get. Like, it's like, you're worshiping paganism if you do an Easter egg hunt. If you give your kids a Easter egg basket, it's like same thing with Christmas. Like, if you have a Christmas tree in your house, you're worshiping the devil. Like, people get too legalistic with a lot of things like that.
Yep.
And so that's why I was just bringing it up as a troll, because we did an Easter egg hunt here. So the kids, I thought, I guess you got here after they had already did it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you guys excluded us.
Hey, I was late. Them kids couldn't wait.
Yeah, of course we were late. We had to do church, and I had to cook.
Yeah. Speaking of church on Easter, did you see the whole Mike Todd thing?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Can I play a little bit of that?
Yeah. All right.
Have you seen this, Mom?
No.
So this is we were just talking about Mike Todd at the last podcast,
Right.
and we were talking about the sub of the mission. Now I want to know what part of the mission is this sub to? You can pull this up, Mom. Now keep in mind, this is their Easter celebration at the church, at the Transformation Church.
Let me stay back. So you give me a minute and I'll be right back. Got the princess in my dungeon, they said that I couldn't get her. I done got so sick and filthy with envy, I can't free her. Tell me.
Shimmy out. I can get to the money.
What are those shoes?
I think I'm getting to the
Some type of character.
Yeah.
As we were saying, Dragon, this is what you need to do. Step 1, find you a baddie.
Okay.
But step 2,
She gotta have a fatty.
hey, turn up some eggs.
Look back at it.
Uh-oh.
What is she doing?
This is just
Friends,
like
I don't
This
have
is a church?
fatty. Girl, we keep telling you it's okay.
Your
This is
little
Mike
booty
Todd's
matter too,
church.
friend.
Y'all know they don't be discriminating.
Okay, demons, now let's get information.
Okay, that's the mashup of.
So it was like a musical type.
It seems like it was a musical, like narrative kind of thing.
Yeah.
People are completely outraged by this.
Yeah.
I saw it like going all over Twitter. People were completely outraged. To me, it's kind of like, yeah, I get it. It seemed like an excuse to do a lot of Beyonce music. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
Or,
but
well, that one wasn't Beyonce.
that was Katy Perry, right?
No, that was the
That
other.
died young.
I don't know, dude. I don't know these people's
Oh,
names.
okay.
I don't either.
No, but that formation and and the other song was Beyonce.
Yeah, the first one wasn't. I don't know who that was.
Yeah,
I know who it is, but I don't know her name.
right. Okay. Yeah, I mean, to me, it's kind of like what Sunday Service was doing also, right? Wasn't Sunday Service taking a bunch of pop songs and turning them into, like, trying to flip them into Jesus songs?
The
Kanye West thing?
I think so.
So what do you think the outrage is about this? Just because, like, they were depicting, like, if you watch it out of context like this, it's like, oh, this looks like it's a concert. This looks like it's a Grammys performance. There's demonic stuff on stage. You know what I mean? But if it's a narrative, if they're telling a story, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, it is a little over the top production wise, and like.
Yeah, but that's what they do.
Yeah.
It's like, that's what that church does.
Right.
To me, it's worldly wisdom.
Yeah.
Like, it's wisdom of the world. It's like, you know what I mean? It's
They
wisdom.
know that this is when most people that don't go to church are going to come to their church, so they
Yeah.
want to connect with them with things that are familiar to them
Right.
in a way that people will be wowed, you know, and be like,
Yeah.
"Oh, I want to come back here. That was lit." You know what I mean? That's what they
Yeah.
want.
But I think if that's the standard you give people, then you got to continue to hold to that type
Yeah.
of standard. And
Yeah.
I don't know. To me, it's just like that takes away from what
That's the problem.
it's the show. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's a show. It's just, and that's what most churches are doing. They're doing these shows to get people to come, and they think that's how they're going to keep them. But to me, it's just like, this is Easter Sunday. Let's talk about the Lord. Like, I know that they're trying to.
I mean,
say something.
were
there.
they though in their own? Like, I don't
think
know.
they were.
I think you got to see the whole show
I
to
understand
like maybe
that,
they
but-
were giving the narrative of, you know.
I know, but like I said, it's like everything is becoming a show. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, all of the comments were pretty much like this one. This is not a concert or a hip hop show. This is Mike Todd's church. This is how they celebrated Easter. A bunch of people were commenting like that. Like, this is, they're trying to be like the Grammys, like all this stuff. But
Yeah, it definitely looked like like an award show type.
Yeah.
thing.
with all the
Like,
fires and
Yeah.
the explosions
It
and
was definitely-
yeah.
And the
Smoke.
leather pants. And
Yeah.
all
It
was a
that, and it's just
production.
like,
Yeah.
like it was a good production. Like they
yeah.
They put a
were-
lot into it.
Yeah, but I don't know.
Do you think it's
think-
demonic?
I mean,
Because I saw people like Marcus Rogers going in on like, you know, this is demonic. This is, you know,
I don't like going there. You know,
Yeah.
I think it's worldly wisdom. Like, it's how can we draw people in? I think that we can focus on the wrong things. You know, like you can focus on what makes sense
yeah,
in this world and try to pander.
yeah.
I do think there's some pandering there.
That's what I
You know
think. I think it's more about pandering and more about how do we cast a wide net for people and use the things that they like to capture them and bring them back to this church. You know, because even like the way the message that we were talking about last week, the way he was preaching on that topic, it was like trying to make sure he don't say the wrong things and making sure that everyone feels okay with my message. You know,
everyone feels like they're included.
yeah,
Which it is like church is inclusive, but it's inclusive in terms of how you come in.
mm-hmm.
You can't come in any way you want. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You can't come in, meaning it's just like you can't come to the king any way you feel like coming to the king.
Right.
You got to have respect. You got to have honor. So like it's just come as a child.
Mm-hmm.
If you're coming in a way where, all right, I need help, you know, but when you're coming in a way where like you need to show me something,
Yeah,
that's not. That shouldn't be a standard. Okay, now I feel like I gotta show you something.
yeah,
That's where you get into like the pandering and the false love, you know, because now you feel like you gotta prove who you are and who God is when you don't.
Yeah.
He's fine to do it all by himself. We actually get in the way.
Right.
You know? So I do think there's a little bit of that where you get in the way of what God wants to do. I was talking to Mom about that. With you have wisdom and you have revelation, and a lot of times they're disconnected. Like it's like Mary and Martha. Martha represents like the wisdom part. Mary represents the revelation part.
Yeah.
And a lot of people are like doing things, but they're out of time. That's the wisdom part, right? You're out of time. And then you're doing things, but then you don't understand why you're doing it. So you lose, it becomes dead wisdom. You know what I mean? It's like there's so much in the Bible, but how many people read the Bible, but then take it how they want to take it. Dude, there's wisdom in there. But if you use it the way you want to use it, then it's like having it's a skill that is out of place and out of time.
Yeah.
And revelation is like, if you don't set it in scripture, you know what I mean? If you don't set it in ability or wisdom, or it's like grasping at the wind.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because you see these things, but then how do I apply it in my life? So when you connect those things together, like revelation is about the timing. Or you could say prophetic, prophetic and apostolic. So I don't know. To me, I think we have a disconnect with those things in the church a lot of times, where you have people, they're like very like word based, right? But then they don't know what God's doing.
Right.
They can't understand what God's doing, so they miss all that, right? So they know you shouldn't do this, you shouldn't do that, or to do this or to do that. You know these basic things. Even like with this country, like there's things at work, you see it, like that's truth.
Yeah.
But how do you apply that truth? How do you work that? Because the problem is you just start like banging on stuff, and you're like it says, you're like a clanging cymbal. You know what I mean? People don't know how to take that into their life, and revelation is like light, but the problem is it's connected to your desire. So you might see something that like, oh, I never saw it that way, but then it's connected to your desire. So if you're wicked, you're going to twist what you see to like benefit yourself. So the moment you see it, you're going to be like, you're going to try to make yourself greater, right? That's what happens a lot. Like, oh, did you know this? But did you know that?
Right.
Right. And that's what happens. So now your light is actually just darkness, right? So there's always that connect. I think you need that wisdom, but you need that revelation. And with these, you see this so much. You have this like, there's an emphasis on like, let's show people something. Let's show them something. Show them something, right? We gotta wow them, right?
Yeah.
And let's show them that we love them.
Yeah.
But you're doing it in your own way. You're not letting God work in it, right? So now you're getting in the way.
Yeah. All right. So I wanted to show this because this is something else that happened this week. I sent this to you guys, and this is something that we've talked about here. We've talked about the belief system of this thing.
I saw this.
I know. I sent it to y'all, remember?
Oh, yeah.
So I'll set it up for you. So this is in India. This is the Dalai Lama, Mom, right?
Yeah, it looks like.
So the little boy asks him, "Can I have a hug?" And he says, "Okay," and he gives the little boy a hug. And then he says, "Kiss me on the mouth." And then I'll just play it from there.
and suck my tongue.
What? Oh, come on.
He said, "Suck my tongue."
That is so freaking disgusting.
No, suck my
I
tongue.
mean, that's what the heck?
Mom, what is that? Like,
is
serious.
That is so disgusting.
Yeah. You can take it down.
How many people? For years? How many people have thought that the Dalai Lama was this?
He's the holy man.
He's the peaceful, loving.
He's the embodiment of love. Like, we've talked about that on here before. And he's so connected to our politicians. Like, they always bring him in.
Yeah.
Didn't you go to DC one time when he was there?
No.
I remember like Don Paul was there while he was there, right? Didn't you? You didn't go?
I don't think so.
Yeah. But I remember like they used to bring him into DC to do like rituals around the property there.
Yeah.
What was that? No, seriously. What was that about?
This is sick and it's therefore deviant. We do not want it.
That's what it's about.
Oh my God.
That's what it's about.
It's about manifesting what's inside of you.
Yeah.
gosh.
And he's probably old now. He's at the age where he doesn't even have like he let something slip that he probably keeps hidden.
Yeah.
You know? He's been obsessed with Hollywood since he was a kid. Right?
Yeah.
But who suck my tongue?
Yeah.
That is so. And the parent let him?
Yeah. If that was my kid,
Oh, Lord.
yeah. James said definitely did a great job. What do you
I
mean,
think
James?
he's talking about Easter.
Oh. Simone said demonic.
Yes.
Yeah, man. I mean, we know what time the Dalai Lama is on and what about, Buddhism. There's a reason why Simone had to have that conversation with Courtney and, all these people that want to do yoga and all this stuff. They don't understand the ties to all this,
Yeah.
and like where this stuff comes from.
Yeah. Tibetan Buddhism
Yeah.
is high witchcraft.
Yeah.
Like technical witchcraft.
Yeah. Especially with the sand mandalas.
Yeah.
Like, remember we used to talk about that. Have we ever talked about sand mandalas on the podcast?
I
Not
don't think so.
lately.
Maybe years ago, right? Yeah. I mean, the way they call these things portals for ascended beings, it's a ritual that they do where they make these paintings out of sand and then they dump it in a body of water. Like they do it at universities and they'll put it in like the river close by. Or
there's different types of
yeah,
mandalas for different rituals
right.
to invoke different spirits.
Mm-hmm.
They're different ruling. They call them ruling beings,
Yeah,
and they do it for a week, and then they deconstruct it, and then they pour it into the water source.
And you see how deceiving that is? Because they make it look so beautiful.
yeah,
That people, like, they're so ignorant, they don't know, but those are demonic portals entrance,
Yeah.
yeah. And don't they do another ritual where like they bury things in the ground, like body excrement and things like that?
Yeah, it's a mixture of all kind of feces,
Yeah,
Semen,
semen,
like
blood.
menstruation blood.
all kinds of stuff. They put it in a vial, they bury it in the ground, they do a ritual over it.
Yeah.
A lot of weird stuff like that.
Yeah. So that's why when you see like that manifest, like he couldn't contain himself. Sounds like hundreds of people there at least.
Man.
And the little boy asked him for a hug and then he couldn't contain himself. And you could tell like when the boy goes in to kiss him, he like was awkward about it. You know what I mean? And then
He doesn't do it.
he kissed him.
No, I'm saying he doesn't suck his tongue.
No.
Like,
But the people cheered when he kissed him.
Unbelievable.
Because they don't. People are so in awe of him.
Yeah.
You know, they look at him like, again, a spiritual. Like
What do they call him? His holiness, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Simone said you saw it on his face when he said it. Yeah, you did. Like he was. It was like he wanted. He couldn't stop himself. He knew he shouldn't be doing this, but he said it.
Like, the perversion
Yeah,
just came out.
it just came out.
Yeah.
And apparently he put out like some statement apologizing for what he said.
Really?
Yeah.
Wonder why.
Because he's getting a lot of backlash. People, that clip went viral. You know what I mean?
Suck my tongue.
Yeah.
God.
Like
That's
that is
so
crazy. That is wild, boy. Like, dude, what is with these old? I saw all these memes where like Joe Biden was like standing over his shoulder, like Joe Biden is probably thinking like, "Oh, we allowed to do that now?"
But that's at the core of witchcraft. It's power over the ignorant,
Yeah,
right? And the most ignorant are children, right? And,
Yeah.
and they're the most pure in a sense of they haven't gotten into much yet,
yeah,
right? We're all born in sin.
mm-hmm.
But what I'm saying is that you're innocent in the fact you don't know anything and you haven't done a lot. If you're in you could be in a family that is totally depraved and you get caught up in a lot of stuff, but they like taking kids in that way to use them for these things.
I just want to point out the cope of one of these comments under the videos. This dude posts a picture of him when he was young, and he says, "I wonder if the audio is authentic, but I do know that touching foreheads and sticking out the tongue is a Tibetan sign of respect." Like, bro, what are you talking about, man? Get
That's
the
not
heck out of
sticking
here.
The tongue. That's sucking the tongue.
That is some kind of cope, man.
Yeah. Well, if it's a sign of respect to suck somebody's tongue, that's perverted, therefore deviant.
Yeah.
We
And
do
not
it.
want it.
So that's culturally a problem.
Yeah.
Right? There's a lot of cultural stuff in other people's, in people's cultures that have been horrible.
Yeah.
And throughout history.
Oh, he had to come right behind it because CNN put out an article about it. So he had to come right behind and say, "Bad news, everyone. It's starting to look like the audio might be authentic after all." Like, dude, get out of here, bro. Like, you think somebody just made up that?
Yeah.
People's delusion, man. They will try to cope with anything. But yeah,
But if that's Donald Trump,
oh yeah.
they're not giving him the same
Heck no.
grace.
Trump would have been dead.
Let me pull this up, Mom. This is some of his favorite people, Some of his favorite people here. Yeah, I remember him meeting with all these people. But yeah, like, what was the story with him in Hollywood when he was younger? Like, didn't he go to Hollywood? To me, it's like, isn't that even against what Tibetan Buddhism is about, to be into Hollywood like that?
He's the Dalai Lama. He could do whatever
He
wants.
was into it as a young kid.
Yeah.
They used to bring movies.
Right. He was obsessed with movies. That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
But when he got older, didn't he used to like go there all the time and
I don't know.
meet with
Maybe.
and hang out with these celebrities?
Probably. I'm not sure, but even the way like they choose a Dalai Lama is crazy. I don't know if you know about that.
Break that down, because I forget. You told me before, but break that down. The way they choose the Dalai Lama.
So they just once the Dalai Lama dies, that spirit goes to somebody else.
Right.
So it's, it's a demonic spirit. It goes to somebody else. It's a spirit. Spirits don't die. So they go around looking for the child that has the spirit of the Dalai Lama.
So how do they know if a child has the spirit of the Dalai Lama?
It's the characteristics. They know by the characteristics. So they have to go and like search for him. And then you hear they hear things like, oh, this person over here might be this person over here. You know, it's not that big.
Yeah.
Tibet isn't that big anyway.
Yeah.
So.
That's true.
Yeah.
Shout out to Emma. He said, greetings, guys. Almost missed you guys again today. Just got home, man. Thanks for tuning in, brother. Make sure you share this video. What is James talking about?
Yeah, I don't know.
What is that, James?
What did he say?
A bunch of letters. And then he said, I respect the hell out of my wife then. What does he mean by that? Oh, he's talking about sign of respect, sticking the tongue out. He crazy.
Shout out to Donnie.
Donnie's in the building. We just talked about your Easter Sunday service over at Mike Todd's church, bro. I don't know if you've seen that Beyonce celebration.
This church service don't look nothing like that.
Yeah, but yeah, that Dalai Lama thing was crazy. But I think even like a lot of Christians like embrace that type of like weird Tibetan Buddhism philosophies, you know what I mean? Because it's so prevalent in Hollywood.
I was more mainline.
Yeah.
Because you think about it, like those are the things I used to go and pray, like when they would bring in these Dalai Lamas.
Yeah,
I mean Dalai Lamas, these priests. These
the Tibetan monks.
Monks.
Yeah, I remember when they came to Philly and then they walked over the bridge into Camden.
Yeah,
and then we actually went and like went up after them through their path and prayed.
Yeah,
to counteract their spells.
Yeah, but I went the whole week. I was there.
Yeah,
because they were actually building a mandala, and when that day when you're talking about, that was when they were done and they actually poured it
into the Delaware.
Yeah, they deconstructed it and poured it into the Delaware. And then they walked over to Camden. Yeah. So it's funny because I was coming to the office.
Yeah.
And right when I turned the corner, I see them.
Saw them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's what they do. So they were that was a Lutheran church that they came into. So a lot of
So they invited them.
Yeah, they invited them. A lot of Lutheran, Methodist, Presbyterian.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they don't know because you look at fruit in a very superficial way.
Mm-hmm.
So you're just looking at it like, oh, they're kind.
He's about love.
They're about love. They're kind.
Yeah.
They're peaceful. But those are just characteristics that they've learned. It's like a tree, you know, to be, like we talked about this before when we were watching the Asian dude with the tree.
Oh, yeah.
The tree, a tree can't change, right? That's why you have to be born again. That tree is going to produce the same fruit. It's bad fruit, right? Mm-hmm. If you're born in sin, you're a tree. And that's how even, like when Jesus deals with the blind man, one of the blind men, he heals him. But first he sees in the spirit, he sees men walking around as trees.
Yeah.
So there's a connection to us as trees. Even how it says, blessed is he who trusts in the Lord. He's like a tree planted by the waters. Mm-hmm. So trees are representative a lot of times of men, right?
Yeah.
Even Jesus said, you'll know them by their fruit. So wicked trees are connected to even like our nature, right? And the fruit will bear. Now you can dress that up. You can cut off all the fruit, right? Mm-hmm. So people aren't seeing what you bear, but you can't change. It's going to grow back.
Yeah.
Right? That fruit's going to grow back. You can cut it off again, but it's going to grow back. You're always going to be dealing with the same nature.
Yeah.
You can't change your nature, but you can work really hard at it. And that's why like these Tibetan monks, they're very disciplined in their nature. Mm-hmm. But you can't overcome that nature because that is your nature.
Do you think they're really disciplined?
I think
I
think they're disciplined to look a certain way, to show what they want to show. That's what I mean. Like, you're disciplined in how you present yourself. Because again, like when you can manicure a tree, right? You can cut it, you can make it look pretty. Like if it's a tree that's for apples, but if you have that tree, you can make it look like something else other than a tree that bears fruit for apples, right? Yeah. you can make it look like, oh, that's a nice tree. You can manicure it. Like, look at, what's it called?
Bonsai.
There you go, bonsai.
Yeah.
Right? That's, you could take any tree and make it look bonsai.
Yeah.
And that's really like, you can cultivate it and give it a form, right? So I think that's what happens. Because even the thing of bonsai, Buddhist, you know, it's the same type of thing. Like, you're taking something of a nature and trying to manicure it, but it's still the same thing,
Right.
Right? And it's just like, you think about like transgenderism, think about BBLs, all these things. It's all you're doing is you're changing the outward appearance, but inside you're the same. You can't, like, people are so concerned with, oh, I need a big butt, or with the transgender stuff.
Yeah.
Inside, I feel like my image should be this.
Right.
Right? Inside, I feel like I have a big butt. Like, so you manicure yourself in a way, but what they're doing, it's just in a different way. Why I say it's high witchcraft is because it's manipulation to gain access, right? So you're doing all these things to
so
look.
people will invite you in,
Right,
Because
exactly.
you seem like love and peace, and then you come in and then you do rituals
that actually bring destruction.
Right, right.
Yeah.
But that's the funny thing is the people, they want to hear that. They want that. And that's why I pulled this up again. I keep getting this because God keeps giving me this verse. And it says, 2 Timothy 4. I said this last podcast because this is what people want to hear. It says, for the time will come when they will not endure sound doctrine, but after their own lusts shall they heap to themselves teachers, having itching ears, and they shall turn away their ears from the truth and shall be turned unto fables.
Yeah, because it's your nature. It's the desire. It's the desire that you can't change. You can't change the desire, so you can't change your nature. And what people do is they think that if I do these things, my nature will change, and it won't. That's why, like, you have two testaments. You have the Old Testament, the New. That's like two witnesses, right? We talked about this at church. So you have the old witness, which is about obeying the commandments, right? Now that's darkness. It's like one is in darkness. Wisdom, in wisdom, you can prepare in the dark, right? But when the light comes, the meaning comes. That's when you go and you can walk in the light, right? You can't really walk out the things in the dark because you don't know what it is. But you can prepare, right? So it's like the first witness, the Jews, they served, right? They served, but there was no change. So you had the first witness is about servants that are faithful. The second witness is about sons that are thoughtful. See, that thoughtful is caring. I was talking to Mom about this. Faithful is about doing things. A servant who has no future or purpose is only useful for a time. But a son or a child that's in his father's house is a servant that becomes a son, right? Sonship. So a child that becomes a son, he's going to be a carer or a caretaker. A servant doesn't, like Jesus said, he doesn't remain in the house forever.
Yeah.
But a son does. So that's the different testaments. One is in the light. One is thoughtful because it's a change of your thinking. That's different. That's a change of your nature. Do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. That's a transformation. So Jesus came to bring transformation. But the Old Testament is just a placeholder where you're doing these things, practicing over and over and over again. But there's a time where the light comes and it's like, oh, that's why we were doing these things. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But the problem is if you never come into that light, then people can manipulate you because you're still in darkness. So now you can twist the things that you were doing.
Right.
And that's what happens all the time. So you look like you think you can judge rightly, but you can't judge because you're not in the light. So you're judging wrongly because you really don't have the light to judge.
Right.
Just like the Dalai Lama and a lot of people that are in the church and stuff, they have a form of godliness, but they deny the power within.
Denying the power. Yeah, and that's the convergence. So like so then what's the devil want to do? He wants to take us and keep us separate. He wants to keep wisdom and revelation separate. Right? He wants to keep things separate. You got to do these things over here. Do, right? But there's wisdom and there's revelation. Once they're connected, you have the old connected to the new. Jesus fulfilled the old and brings us into the new. That's where the power is. Right? There's no power without having those connected. So there you always have that disconnect. Oh, we're in Christ. We don't need to worry about the law. Well, you don't need to worry about the law if you trust God. If you don't trust God, then that means you don't believe in God. If you don't believe, Jesus came so that you could believe. If you don't believe in him, then you'll never do the things that he said. It doesn't mean you're not supposed to do them. Now you got to live by the law. Now you got to do things. But the problem is if you live by the law, you're living in darkness, right? So you'll never understand what you're doing. Therefore, you can be manipulated. And then that's what happens. So then people come in and they look like the thing that it's saying, but it's not really, but it sounds good, looks good. So then you get twisted. That's what the devil does.
So do you think that what he just did in that clip right there was like a crack or like a crack in his facade?
Yep.
It was definitely.
It's pride. Because like we said, the desire has not changed. The more you come into dark wisdom, demonic wisdom, the more you learn how to gain access.
Right.
The more you want to gain access to people, it's only to control people. So these people want to control situations, people. Why? So they can have power, authority.
Right. So once you reach a point where your ego and your pride has allowed you to be like, I can do whatever I want.
Right. Because you've gained, because you're like, look what I did.
Right.
I did this. Look how I got in here.
Right.
Look how
they love me. Look.
Right.
Yeah. So I can do whatever I want.
Right. So now your guard is down. That's why it's always pride before the fall. Like you don't realize that you just caught yourself.
Right. And you just exposed yourself because you went beyond the veil that you have always kept.
Right. Because it's got to be hidden.
Right.
You got to keep yourself hidden.
Right. It's the Wizard of Oz.
Yeah.
Right.
The moment you
that curtain is pulled back, you no longer have power.
Yeah. And that's only because of Jesus. Like even like everything that we know, Western civilization, people don't get it. Like atheists, all the values that they want to even hold on to, or the things that make Western civilization what it is, came from God.
Yeah.
And it came from Jesus, right? And that's the light. So the reason why we can look and see when somebody does something that they were trying to hide, and we can see that's not right, it's because the light was already revealed.
Yeah.
You wouldn't even be able to see that that's wrong if you didn't have that first come.
Yeah.
Before you were even born, you're born into it. You don't even recognize there's light here. You don't realize it, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's the connection of like in John 4, Jesus is talking to the woman at the well, and he says, you worship a God that you don't know, but the Jews worship a God that they do know. They knew. How did they know him? They didn't know him intimately. They knew him by the word. They knew him by the scriptures that they obeyed.
Right.
But they were worshiping in a way where they knew some things about God because of their ancestors that were connected to the scriptures. But the Samaritans were like a mixture, right? So they had a mixture of Judaism, or at that time it was Israel, and then they had a mixture of the stuff that happened. That's a whole nother thing with Assyria, So they were mutts, right? The Samaritans were mutts. But they didn't know. They knew that these things are true, right? They just didn't know where they came from. They didn't know. They didn't have something to. They didn't have wisdom. They didn't have the scriptures. They only had a certain amount of scriptures that they would follow. Right? They didn't. I don't think they followed the prophets. I think they only followed like the Torah, but they didn't follow the prophets and a lot of the kings, and they only followed like I think I might be wrong, but I think they only follow like the 5 books of the Torah.
Okay.
So in terms of prophetic, they didn't understand a lot of these things. They didn't get it, right? And that's why they were kind of always at odds with the Jews. But you see that mindset. So Jesus comes in and says, they're like, well, how should we worship? You say in Jerusalem, but our fathers worshipped here. And he says, there's going to come a time where you don't have to worship here or in Jerusalem, right? And he says, you'll worship in spirit and in truth.
Right.
So now we're talking about like that's the action, right? But also in spirit. So when God comes, we abide in his word. He speaks to us, and he speaks to us in time. Like the reason why we pray is not to be like, oh God, I'm dealing with this, I'm dealing with that. Do it all the way I think it should be done. No, it's to come to him and say, I need your help. Come into my situation. And a lot of times he's going to show us, and then we can apply the word. Think about it. If we don't read the Bible, what can we apply? If we never read the Bible, now God's still speaking, but he's got to speak to us in a way where he can relate to us. But that's harder for him to get to us. That's why people are like, well, I don't hear God's voice.
Yeah.
Right? And I've heard this so many times. Like people who don't even know God, Muslims, they would have dreams or have visions and God would speak verses that they never even read before in the Bible. You know what I mean? Like Bible verses. And a lot of times when God speaks to people, he speaks Bible verses to them. They didn't even know were in the Bible.
That's crazy.
Why? Because he's bringing to life what's there. So, and you'll make that connection later on. Oh, that was there all along. Because his word was covering us all along. But again, it doesn't make any sense until you meet the word and the revelation of the word together. It has to become life or light. You know what I mean? But if not, people will take that word and they'll use it in death or in the dark. And what did he say? Jesus said about the Pharisees, it's the blind leading the blind.
Right. Mon said, morals and values people live by are biblical and came from Judeo-Christian values, but they don't even know it most of the time.
Yeah.
Very true. Very true, because, that was one of the biggest arguments between Sam Harris and Jordan Peterson when they did that atheist versus, religious debate. It was like, how do you establish a moral foundation without God?
Yeah.
There is none.
And that's what's happening now. People are changing the morals. They're coming away from even that wisdom.
Yeah.
So you see, like, that was you have to change truth. That's scary.
Right.
Because now you're going into a place where, well, where do you base that off of? There is no basis for, well, no, a man can be a woman.
Yeah.
But where's that truth at? There's nowhere there's nothing. It's like grasping at the wind,
Well,
right?
it's my truth.
Right.
Yeah.
But it's just wind.
Yeah.
Like it's nothing to grab onto in this world.
Yeah.
Until you make something, right? Well, I'm going to make myself look like a woman. See, now it's a perversion. It's really not true. Because even physically in their core, it's not true. But outwardly it seems true.
Right.
Right.
Right. But then that philosophy can be so easily dismantled, because it's like, but even your ideology says that a woman is not based off of the outward appearance.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So you changing your appearance doesn't shouldn't mean anything.
Yeah. Because it's how they feel.
Right.
But they're trying to make how they feel on the inside match the outside.
Right. But their ideology says that shouldn't matter.
Right. That's why.
But they still desire
doesn't-
to do it.
Doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. Yeah, man. So, other things going on in the world right now. I mean, it's pretty crazy. Think about it. The dollar is pretty much collapsing. The petrodollar is about to be totally eliminated. We showed Africa's talking about abandoning it, and pretty much aligning themselves with China and Russia. We got did you see the Pentagon had some kind of leak where like classified documents leaked, and it showed that like they've been lying about what's going on in Ukraine.
I don't see that.
Yeah, that happened I think over the weekend. Hold on, I got an article about it right here. Yeah, this is the New York Times right here.
New York Times?
Yep. Is it frozen or something, Mom?
Just
So-
pulled it. Not coming. Oh, okay.
There we go. Ukraine war plans leak prompts Pentagon investigation. Classified war documents detailing secret Americans and NATO plans for building up the Ukrainian military ahead of a planned offensive against Russian troops were posted this week on social media channels. Senior Biden administration officials said the Pentagon is investigating who may be behind the leaks. Modification points. See if they're going to. I know the leaks. I don't know if they go into it here because I bet you they probably like we don't want to give any of that information away. But let me see. For example, one of the slides said 16,000 to 17,500 Russian soldiers had been killed, while Ukraine had suffered as many as 71,000 troop deaths. Yeah, so that was one of the things. So they did go into it. That was one of the things that the leaks showed was that they've been lying about how Ukraine is winning this war. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like it seems like Russia is actually the one dominating. And it leaked that it seems like Biden is planning on sending troops now.
Yeah.
Like boots on the ground. Let me show you what the
because it's always a slow process.
Yeah.
You know,
they got to slow walk you in. Yeah. You know, they tell you that it's about securing democracy and liberating Ukraine and freedom, and you know, but then we slowly send them. You know, first it was we're never gonna send them any weapons. Mm-hmm. We're never gonna send them tanks. Then we do that. Then we send them weapons. Then we send tanks. Then we send $100 billion.
Was it on here that we were showing? Did you show the president in like drag, like
Zelensky?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we did. I think we showed that on here before.
Yeah, so it looks demonic.
Yeah,
like what he's doing.
In drag.
Yeah, I mean he's a ex-comedian / actor.
Right.
So there was that clip of him like doing some kind of like music video or something going around where he's in like drag.
Oh.
And it does look very demonic.
Yeah.
We showed it on here before. But let me show you the one of the press secretary's responses to this leak.
Again, without confirming the validity of the documents, this is information that has no business in the public domain. It has no business, if you don't mind me saying, on the pages of front pages of newspapers or on television. It is not intended for public consumption, and it should not be out there. Again,
you have no right to know what's really going on.
What the heck is he saying?
You do not have a right to know what's going on behind the scenes. You only have a right to know what we tell you you're supposed to know. And if you want to find out the truth, we're going to be pissed.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they're trying to get to the bottom of who did these leaks because somebody going to jail.
Yeah. I mean, it's the same story over and over again. The people are the ones who suffer the most.
Yeah.
The people in Ukraine, they're the ones that are suffering the most.
Yeah.
It's not the leaders.
No.
It's the people. They don't care about the people.
Mm-mm.
They pander,
Right.
but it's really about them gaining control.
Yeah.
And that's what it is in the United States.
Yeah. I mean, I think the main reason for the whole thing is over that pipeline. You know, it's about securing the petrodollar even further.
Yeah.
You know,
There's definitely a war going on that I think a lot of people don't realize we're in already.
yeah.
And this is a time to pray, man.
Yeah.
Time to
That's
pray.
what I was saying. Like all that stuff seems like it's going crazy. We got this war. You know, Trump just tweeted out World War III the other day. Everybody lost their mind.
Yeah. I definitely would say like it's not a time to be afraid.
Yes.
When I say pray, I'm saying we have to learn how to trust God.
That's what I was gonna say.
You know?
Like even with all of that news, we're still good.
Yeah. That's what like Young Lions is all about.
Yeah.
If you look at Psalms 34, it says, "Blessed are those who trust in the Lord." Right? It says, it speaks about learning the fear of the Lord. And when lion in the Hebrew comes from the word kaf, which is about covering.
Yeah.
It's the 11th letter. And I was talking about this too. And the lion, why is it a young lion? I'm saying is kafir, right? So it's from the word kaf, which is about kofar or kof, which is about covering.
Yeah.
So why would a lion or a young lion be connected to that? Because it's the covering of the mane. So as a young lion grows, his mane gets greater and more beautiful. And I think it's in connection to how we trust God. The more we trust God, the more we come under the covering of God, the more we become more beautiful, right?
Yeah.
As a follower of Jesus. Because a lot of times when things are going good, people ain't looking.
Yeah.
But when things start to go sideways, that's when people are looking for answers.
They pay attention.
That's when you have to occupy these spaces. Or when the preparation was always there. You're wondering, man, why am I going through these things? Why do I have to go through these things as a believer? Like, shouldn't I be winning? Shouldn't I, like a lot of people I think this way. But if you can't understand it, trust God.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times he's preparing you for a time to come. And if you trust him through the process, when the time comes, you'll see you're ready now.
Yeah.
And that's what a young lion is about. Because it says, taste and see that the Lord is good. Let me teach you the fear of the Lord.
Yeah.
Right? A young lion suffers lack. Why? Because of learning how to trust God. Learning how to fear God. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom.
Sorry. Yeah.
Right? So the wisdom of God is connected to the fear of the Lord. So we can get caught up on one side, like you have the very charismatic side where you can get caught up into the spiritual aspect of things to where now you have no grounding. Yeah. Right? To where now it's like, well, I saw this. Yeah. And I saw, like, you see people talking crazy, like, and I was in heaven. Right. And in heaven there was a fountain of jello and a waterfall of jelly beans. And like people really talk. I'm not even joking.
I've heard people say stuff like that. Yeah.
Right? And it becomes so like detached from life that it's like, okay, what am I supposed to do with that? Right. Like where do I go with that? Yeah. And then you start to become well, I'm a prophet, so I saw this, and if you don't want to hear what the God is saying, then you need to submit yourself. Right. You need to humble yourself. Yeah. And what's this? The anointing. What's that? People always use. Touch not my anointing. Yeah. Touch not my anointing. So you get people that get so out there, and then it it alienates a lot of people.
Yeah.
It's like, man, I don't want to have no punch. But then on the other side of that, you have people who are so like dogmatic
Yeah.
that they're annoying to be around.
Right.
Like, because everything they say, like, nothing, everything's wrong that you do, and they're always picking everything apart. That's where you get the discernment ministries, right? Where everything is, I know why this is wrong, and this is the devil, and that's the devil,
right?
You know,
yeah.
That's why I don't like
very legalistic,
right? And that's why I don't like saying everything's like, these pastors are the devil.
Yeah,
like, I don't like doing that because
I agree with you. That's why I like the Mike Todd thing. That's why I wanted to play that, because even though we were like kind of hard on him last week, I saw everyone going extra crazy on him about this Easter thing, and to me it was like I understood what they were doing. Like, there was a lot of pandering to it, you know, but to me that's no different than the other pandering that people do, like, you know. But I mean, and the reason why we talk about these things, the reason why we show a lot of this stuff of what's going on in the world is not to put people in a sense of like fear or be afraid or be like, oh, we better be praying because everything's going crazy.
Yeah,
it's just to prepare you.
Right. It's to say God is able.
Yeah.
But if you put your head in
pay
the
attention.
Sand, yeah.
Pay attention, because a lot of this stuff is happening because we don't hold the line.
Right. If you're not responsible.
Yeah.
Responsibility doesn't mean you take on something that you don't know how to take on.
Yeah.
It means you take on what you can take on. And if just taking on means to pay attention and to go to God.
Yeah.
You might not know what to do, but what you can do is have the right response. Responsibility is the right response.
Yeah.
And the right response is, all right, I don't know what to do. Let me seek God. Let me give it to him. I'm having anxiety in this thing. Let me give him my fears. Let me repent. Right? What does repent mean? To turn to God or to change your mind.
Mm-hmm.
This is the way I'm thinking. If you got anxiety, it's because you're thinking on the things that you need to let go of.
Yeah.
So let me give him to God.
Let me show this clip breaking down a little bit of what's going on currency-wise. You know, they've been trying to implement this central bank digital currency.
Yeah.
So this guy is kind of like going.
We don't have to take.
Yeah. The establishment's demonization of cash is gaining steam. So he's talking about a tactic that they're using in Europe to try to start implementing this.
Now we have in Europe this threshold. Above 1,000 euros, you cannot pay cash. If you do, you are on the gray market. So you take your risk. You get caught, you are fined, or you go in jail.
So you can't pay anything above $1,000. You can't pay cash.
You're on the gray market.
The gray market,
not the black market.
Yeah.
The gray market.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yep.
So you go to jail for spending your own money if they don't control it. That's coming here. Tulsi Gabbard has spoken out against it. She, of course, ran for president, served in the House from Hawaii, and joins us now. Congressman, thanks so much for coming on.
Thanks, Tucker.
This is so dystopian. You'd hate to think it could ever come here. You think it might?
Well, yeah. I mean, this is just the latest effort by those in power in our country who are intent on undermining and taking away our own freedoms and liberties. This central bank digital currency is about government-sanctioned surveillance and control. It's about them being able to keep track of every single thing that we purchase, whether it's a stick of gum or an automobile or anything in between. And so if they have all this information and data, which they will in this system, then where does that lead? It gives them the power to decide, okay, well, hey, we don't want to allow you to purchase certain things, or we may deem it necessary to freeze your overall account. This power and what they can do with it, it's not something we have to imagine. We've already seen how Democrats in Congress, Elizabeth Warren and others, are pressuring credit card companies to code and keep track of any purchase that's made at a store that sells firearms. Why? So that these private companies can then say, hey, this person is purchasing, I don't know what they deem is kind of the threshold, but they will then report that as suspicious activity to law enforcement and then expect law enforcement to take action and go after the purchases, legal purchases that a private person made. So this all comes back to how you open this. Once we give up our economic autonomy, we no longer have freedom. Once we allow someone else to control our wallet, they then control.
Economic autonomy. And think about, like, because we were just talking about how a lot of it is because we don't pay attention and we give away our autonomy.
And because we don't want to be responsible.
Right. So think about it, like with all the things that you see happening with, like, you know, the Silicon Valley Bank and like all these banks collapsing. Mm-hmm. How easy would it be? Because most people's money's in the bank. Most people don't use cash. So if you have thousands of dollars in the bank and then they tell you, the bank is collapsing, but don't worry, we're going to insure everyone's money. We're going to give it to you in this coin that we've developed. It's the US dollar coin. Mm-hmm. It's completely backed by the Federal Reserve. So all of your dollars are accounted for. They're just going to be all converted into this coin.
Mm-hmm. That's the problem.
Yeah.
It's backed by the Federal Reserve.
Well, that's the problem, is that like people will say, okay, as long as I have my money, you know.
Right. But how do they do it? They do it based off of fear. Mm-hmm. So they were talking about, like, they just slid that in there with the guns. Right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But why is that? Why is, they brought up Elizabeth Warren, like, why are they bringing these things to the forefront? Because these are tactics to deal with the gun issues.
Yeah.
The gun issues.
Right.
Mm-hmm. So I was watching something where they were talking about, like, the responsibility of media. Like, there's a playbook on what not to do, and they do the total opposite. Right. In terms of empowering people, because these things come out. Like, whenever you report on what happens, they used to be very vague because they saw how it affected people.
Yeah. You
get copycats, right? You get people who go and do, like, even in terms of, like, suicides.
Yeah.
If you're very
detailed
on what you see, that happen a lot more.
And now they're extremely detailed.
Right. So now, and what's going on now?
Right.
Why are they doing that? Is that irresponsible?
Yes.
Yes.
Is it purposeful, though?
Is it for them?
That's what I'm saying.
Yes.
Because they know that the more details we give, the more click-through rate we get.
Yeah. Now, but at the end, see how, like, the desire, it might not, you could say their intent is really to make more people do this.
Yeah.
But I won't put, maybe their intent is just to get people to click.
Yeah.
Right? Or to watch.
Yeah.
Right?
Or to stay tuned.
Because people will want to watch and they want to know details.
Right.
But then you have a lot of people that want to know those details so they can go and do it themselves. And you've seen what happened with the trans shooting. There were just two other ones that got, luckily the parents,
turned them in.
Yeah.
But there was just one today, though.
Oh, really?
I think so. Yeah, I think I saw one. But keep going. I'll look it up.
No, so what I'm saying is that if we continue to, all right, we can't imply their intent.
Yeah.
But what we can see is the lack of wisdom they're using because of their desires that are blinding them.
Mm-hmm.
No matter what they are. And that is wicked, right? Because if the love of money is the root of all evil.
Right.
Right? So even if you can't see that where this is going to lead, you're still allowing money to be your lead, right? To be your guide. So, if we do this, we're going to get more clicks. But this correlates to a rise in suicide. This correlates to a rise in copycats doing the same thing, right?
Or a division in the country, or people hating each other because all you do is continue to report divisive things because that gives you more content, more clicks. The more you call someone a fascist or a racist, or you stoke the flames of those things, you get more clicks. But all that does is continue to divide everybody,
right?
And put them in their ideological corners. But yeah, I think that's a great point. Like, the way they implement these things is to use the fear of other things. You see that going on with the TikTok thing. Like, everyone is so worried about China owning TikTok that they're trying to pass this crazy bill to control pretty much everything you do on the internet.
Right.
And give them the authority to pretty much, surveil everyone.
Right. And this is where we get into these these 1984 scenarios that this is a setup for Antichrist.
Yeah.
Like, and I hate to be like, once you say Antichrist, but this is how it happens. The church is, you know why? What stops the Antichrist? The church.
Yeah.
Like the church, the Antichrist really can't come in until the church is gone.
That's right. That's right.
So what stops it is the rock, right?
Yeah.
That the church is built on, right?
Mm-hmm.
The gates of hell. So when you think
prevail.
the gates of hell will not prevail against it, what are the gates? Gates is connected to another form of wisdom or system, strategy, right? What comes in? In the Bible, it says that this is in Psalms 119. I think it's 130 or something like that. The entrance of your word. Think about gates again. The entrance of your word or the opening of your word gives light, right? And then it says, and it gives understanding to the simple. So again, ignorance. What do you need in ignorance? Help.
Mm-hmm.
The Antichrist comes in at a time where people need help.
And offers a solution.
And offers solutions.
Yeah.
That's the point of Christ, Antichrist. Christ means anointing. The anointed one comes with the answers. Christ has the answers. So you have an anti-anointing. It's to draw all men to, God says, I'll draw all men to, well, Jesus, I'll draw all men unto me, right? Because he's God. The point of us as believers is to draw all men to him.
Right.
Not to draw men to ourselves. But the Antichrist is to draw all men to himself.
Yeah.
Right? Away from God. And the stopping force is the church. So when if a church is in fear, if the church is afraid, what good are you?
Yeah.
What good are you?
And what did we see all during COVID?
A lot of closed down churches.
A lot of shut down churches.
And if they're shut down, they're not open.
Right.
Right? The entrance of your word is light.
Right.
So you're closed off. Why? Because you're afraid. There's no light. So people are in darkness. It can't be there's light when you want it to be light.
Yeah.
You have to be faithful. Faithful to the word. And that's a servant. Most people don't want to be servants.
Right.
People want to rule, but people don't want to be servants.
That's for sure.
So many people want to rule. They don't want to. In America, our biggest issue is nobody wants to listen to nobody. One of our biggest issues is the lack of honor. Right? Everybody thinks they know. And if they don't know, they want to be empowered to know, right? Empowered how? Empowered by what? Light. But is that light really coming from God?
Yeah.
It's actually darkness, but they want to be empowered. Look at every debate. If you are out for yourself and you feel like you're going to lose, you're going to go to get the strategies to win.
Right.
You got to go to the gates.
Yep.
You got to go to the openings. You got to go to the places that you can receive the things to empower you so that you can win.
Yeah.
Win the arguments. You know what I mean? That's what it's about. Because the one who wins is the one who rules.
Yeah.
That's all it's about. It's the kingdom of darkness versus the kingdom of light. And if we trust in God, we don't got to worry about proving ourselves. It's the total opposite way. Like a debate with God is humbling ourselves and believing he's the one who can do it. And then through that, he empowers us with strategy to love people, to serve people,
right?
To serve him by serving people, not to be upset and try to figure out a way where I can prove myself.
Right. Or try to convince people to see things your way. Moan said Joe Biden wants to rule, but he was never a servant to the people. That is a fact. Matter of fact, did you see the new tactic for this coming election? Did you hear about the TikTok influencers? They're gonna be paying all this money to convert to convince Gen Zers to vote for them.
I have been seeing some of these like Gen Z. I've been seeing that tactic already from a few.
Yeah, I have an example.
I didn't know
right
that
here.
that was their tactic.
Yeah, that's their tactic.
I kind of figured it out.
To convince the younger generation, this is what everyone's doing. If you don't think like us, you're stupid. You know. Here, pull this up, Mom. This is an example, and it's so obvious. You saw this? Okay.
Let me tell you something. Gen Z is going to make sure there's a blue wave in 2024. Republicans have no policy to help young people. They're literally trying to take away our rights. They are, and Harry, myself, and millions of other Gen Zers have a message to send, and I promise you, Republicans mess with the wrong generation. Let's go. Let me tell you something.
Oh my gosh.
Even that,
so
like,
misguided.
The Republican Democrat thing, like, if you just have a conversation, like, I would love to have a conversation with them.
Right.
So what do you want? What are your desires? What
are the policies that you're talking about here?
Yeah. What do you want to do? Like, where do you see yourself? Just ask people questions.
But the problem is they don't have that. They don't want to have those conversations. They're being paid with a script to make this video because they have a following.
But what I'm saying is I think a lot of people do. I think that generation actually does.
They really believe this stuff, yeah.
Well, I'm saying I think they want to have something to. They want to have purpose.
Yeah.
You get what I mean?
Yeah.
They want to have purpose. They want to have something to believe in.
And they want to feel like they're on the right side of things.
Yeah, it's just that their beliefs are superficial.
Yeah.
And that's
why misguided.
Right. And that's why, like, that's what my point. Like, if you can talk to people, man, it's so easy to dismantle these things.
Yeah.
And it's not to make that's not to make yourself feel better. It's to speak the truth in love.
Mm-hmm.
When you love people and you go and talk to them and then you don't have the ability to break through the things that they've built up in their life, well, then you got to go back to God so he can give you the ability.
Yeah.
It's not our grace and our power. It's his.
Mm-hmm.
So the more we seek after him, he's going to give it to us because it's his.
Mm-hmm.
It's not ours. It's not our fight. It's his. Our fight is faith.
Yeah.
Our fight is to believe in him. And if we love him, we'll be able to love others. And I think if you can see, like to be honest with you, I think Generation Z is something that is going to shift in a way people don't think or don't even realize. Don't expect. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I think that a lot of them are genuinely wanting to have purpose, but you just gotta have people who are willing to go there with them.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if you just say, "Oh, this is the worst," they'll never get it. No, it's so far gone that you're so empty. You know what I mean? That it's so bad. Like the dude that we were watching, the Chinese guy who went to jail. Like he went through so much, but inside he was at the core of himself. He was struggling.
Mm-hmm.
He never told nobody that.
Yeah.
He never told outside. If you look at him on the outside, you would think this guy is an idiot. You know, this guy is just a thug.
Yeah.
This guy, but if you can look deeper than that, well, this is why you're acting like this.
Mm-hmm.
What do you really want? If you just talk to people, you can get past all that surface stuff. And I really believe that if we can do that and engage people, like the whole reason why the Republican thing is whack is because when you have an agenda, it's whack.
Yeah.
If your agenda, that's why I don't like the Republican Democrat.
Yeah.
If your agenda is to win, well, then you don't get it.
Mm-hmm.
Jesus already is going to win.
Right.
In the end. But it's about having enough people see that he's your only answer.
Mm-hmm.
And you need him actually at the core of your being to have any semblance of a life. You know what I mean? That's worth living, I should say.
Yeah.
And when we can articulate that to anybody, how can we lose?
Yeah.
But listen, remember how this generation Z, God can do anything. Remember what he did to Paul? Paul was killing Christians. And then God turned his life around. He can do anything, so we have to have hope. We have to believe.
Yeah, and when you talk, put the camera on yourself, Mom.
Yeah, it looks dumb if you're talking and the camera's on us.
Oh, sorry. Okay, I'll try to do that.
Let me play one more thing and then we'll get into your stuff. I just wanted to show this clip from Patrick Bet David. Shout out to him. We always showing stuff from his podcast, but he had a nice little rant about, because you heard about like people pushing for this 4-hour work week thing.
Yeah.
You know, again, that's another trap, you know. But just listen to this.
This chart shows if you keep saving and investing and others don't.
Huh? Oh, okay.
You don't separate incrementally in a way that you think. You separate exponentially. And by the way, the separation's going to get wider and wider and wider and wider. No matter how much you bash rich people, they're going to go wider, because while you were kicking at wanting to work 3-4 days a week, they're doing 6 days a week because the Bible says take 1 day off. And a lot of people follow that guideline of just taking 1 day off. But everybody wants a 4-day work week. Don't be upset at the guy that's whooping your ass because he's working 6 days a week for 10 years and you work 4 days. Let's actually do the math.
Boom.
A guy works 6 days a week and only takes Sundays off, which is what I did. And it's till today, that's my philosophy, right? So a guy works 6 days and he takes 1 day off over a year span. What is it over a year? Over a year, you get 52 additional days a year, okay? Which is how many hours? Roughly 416 hours, because I'm doing 58 times 8. I think that's 416 hours, right? So that's 52 additional days you get per year. Do you realize within 6 years, within 7 years, you got 1 additional year?
Wow.
Within 10 years, you got years. Within 10 years, you got 520 additional days. You got 4,000 additional hours. Yeah, brother, we're not in the same league, homie.
Sorry.
We're not going to be competing in the same league. This
So,
chart shows.
You see what he's saying? He's talking about people that want to live that 4-day work week life. They're going to fall behind even further because there's people that are living by the principle of working 6 days, only 1 day off. I think where he's missing the disconnect is the people that are fighting for that 4-day work week. These are people that hate their jobs.
Yeah.
These are people that like you were saying, they feel like they have no purpose.
Yeah.
Like they're just going to work all week just to pay bills. He's talking about someone who's trying to build something. When you're trying to build something, you will work 7 days a week. You'll put in 18-hour, 19-hour days because you want to succeed. When you fall into the category of just a worker, which is what they want most people to be, they want you to do a 4-hour work week because whatever we can get you to do to be the most productive for our company. You know what I mean? They know that you're never going to strive to build anything on your own. So I think he's making a good point, but he's missing that part of it.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think
he's
you're right.
working for his own. Like,
Yeah.
He's building it up. People that work for somebody else, like let's say, let me put it on me. Let's say my job when I was working. Remember, I hated my job because they.
Do you want to say the name of it? No, I'm joking.
No, I'm not gonna say
no,
the name
I'm joking.
That the job that I had, I was there for 10 years, and they kept putting more stuff on me, and it just got to a point where it was so bad that during COVID, I left. I got on retirement.
Yeah.
You know, and it was the best thing for me, but I'm just saying they get you to the point where they just want to drain you. They want to take from you. They want to keep working you, you know?
Yeah. So in that situation, you will be happy to take a 4-day work week.
Exactly.
She's like, I get an extra day off, and then because I got to go back to a job where I'm underappreciated, I'm underpaid, I keep getting more responsibility. If the company does a bunch of layoffs, they're going to keep the people that do most of the work, you know? So
yeah. I mean, a lot of these things, like, okay, if you're working for somebody that cares, right? It's a whole different story.
Yeah.
Like, okay, I'm working towards something. I see they're passionate about this and I'm passionate about this, right? You're creating something. Even when, like, I might not even be like, that might not be my thing, but at the time, this is helpful for them and also helpful for me. So I'm going to work with them, right? That's still beneficial and it's still purposeful. But when you're just doing stuff to get paid and that's it, it's so short-sighted, you know? And I believe that that's the way they want us. They want us very short-sighted.
Yeah.
Why aren't people having kids? Because it's very short-sighted.
Yeah.
If you don't have any kids, you are only, I'm talking about, and you're married.
Yeah.
Right? That's kind of the point.
Yeah.
You're short-sighted.
We were just having this conversation on Sunday with somebody.
Yeah.
Talking about why it's important to have kids. Especially if you want to, if you really have a problem with what's going on in the world, you should be wanting to have kids.
Yeah.
How else do you extend the legacy of the way you think?
Yeah. There's a reason why it's wisdom to have a lot of children.
Yeah.
Especially in the Bible, right? Children are your inheritance.
Yeah.
Or children are your reward. There's a reason why it says all these things, because generationally, those things compound. Think of, like, we're talking about compounding, right?
Yeah.
Time.
Yep.
These things multiply.
Yep.
So if you have, I just saw this lady. Her and her husband had 10 kids. Just looking at all, like, Dad, that's crazy. But you got to get if everything is projecting towards you to get you to think about yourself, your desire,
right,
your happiness right now, your desire right now, even just to eat a burger, right? All these things right now, you become very short-sighted. You can't see past what's in front of your face.
Yeah.
But wisdom will see generationally. We'll see 100 years from now.
Yeah.
What's going to happen? I was thinking about this with this. I talked to you about this with the transgender, and a lot of these people in the upper and middle class, especially in the white, a lot of these people are falling into the less than 2 kids, right? Trap. And then also now and then they're falling into the trap of believe in yourself.
Yeah.
I was trying to think of it right. Just believe in yourself, right? Just believe in yourself. Live your dreams, right? Do the things that you want to do. Do what's in your heart.
Right. Well, we're being told now that having less kids is more responsible because of climate change.
Well, that's a whole nother thing.
Yeah.
So okay, let's even go with that, right? Be responsible or that's really about being more virtuous.
Yeah.
Right? So now you have less kids. Okay, even if how do you know that it's a lot? How do you know that it's not true virtue? How do you know that it's not really, it doesn't come from God, right? How do you know this climate thing and the way they're spinning it? It don't come from God. And it's actually stupid or foolish, because it'll cause you to not be fruitful and multiply.
Right.
It'll cause you to hold back, right? And whenever that happens,
you're in fear.
If you're stingy,
well,
then you're in fear.
You're selfish.
You're selfish. If it's hard for you to give because you're afraid you might not have, you're selfish.
Wow. Yeah. That simple.
It's that simple.
And I always say that too. Like, people miss that because that was literally the first command of God. The first commandment of God before the 10 commandments was be fruitful and multiply. It's the first thing he ever told people to do.
Yep.
And we are being told not to do that.
Right. Yeah. So if you're worried about these things, all of these things are designed to get you to be selfish, to get you to look inward.
Yeah.
To look at yourself. And here's the biggest thing.
But it's the illusion of thinking for the future.
Right.
Thinking for the planet. Thinking for your children's generation.
But it's actually, and here I think this is the core of it. Anyway, it's to get you to trust yourself.
Yeah, like that dude was saying.
Yeah.
I trusted myself over everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if you trust yourself, you don't need
trust
nobody
God.
else.
Yeah. And you can't trust anyone else.
But if you trust God, you're going to trust other people with things you normally wouldn't trust them with.
Yeah. That's good.
You're going to give to other people when you normally wouldn't give to them. You see how all these things start to affect us and how we work, how we live, because everything is about like, oh, well, if they don't care about me, I don't care about them.
Right.
Right. So even if you're in your job and they don't care about you, I used to have these conversations with you, Mom, at that job.
Yeah.
Just do your best. Just love people, right?
Right.
Until you're not there anymore, just keep on.
But that's why it says do it as you're doing it unto God. Not for you're not doing it for them.
No.
You're doing it for God.
You're doing it for God, but you will affect them.
Right.
But if you're looking at it in that way, like, oh, I'm gonna do this for them,
right?
You miss it too. You know what I mean? That's why people try to love people.
Yeah,
but it's hard for them to love people.
That's something I have to constantly battle with and remind myself of too, because a lot of times it's like I feel like I'm doing things for people. You know what I mean? Like I'm doing work for people,
right?
And it's like I can't view it that way.
Yeah, because the ability that you have to do it is the ability. Now there is a level of like you're doing too much, right? Because you can always get caught up in like doing too much, which is even doing things out of time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like you're using your ability, but then it's not within the time, and then you're wondering why it's not working.
Yeah.
That's a problem, right? So sometimes you got to like only do the things that you know at this time you're supposed to do, and then work on everything else.
Yeah.
Like how much stuff do you work on in your life that you're like, well, when am I going to use this? But God, I know God commanded me to do this. God commanded me to do these things. But then you're like, if you would look at it like, well, what's the point of me doing this?
Yeah.
Because I don't see how to apply it yet.
Yeah.
But just wait.
That's wax on, wax off, man.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Hey, why am I doing this? You got me doing all these chores.
And sometimes the enemy gets us so busy that we don't have time for the Lord.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's what he wants.
Toil.
Well, I think that's the wisdom versus revelation part. Because if you never have the revelation part, which is the time for God, well, then you'll never have the wisdom part to apply it in the right time. You know what I mean? You'll how can you?
Yeah.
So that now you're always working. You're like, why it's not working? Because you're not in time.
Yeah.
You're out of sync.
Right.
You know what I mean? You're not. It's like music.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's not flowing together.
Right. Two different time signatures. Yeah. All right, let's play this. You had this clip from Bobby Lee's podcast.
Yeah, excuse the language.
Yeah, a little bit of language in this one. I had seen this clip before.
Bobby Lee?
He's a comedian. He's Korean American.
Oh.
He's definitely got a lot of issues. But
let me read this real quick. Courtney said we have to trust God. Bottom line.
Yeah, 100%. But this guy has a big podcast. He's been a comedian for a long time. Was on Mad TV. That's kind of where he blew up. But he's going into slavery here, right? They're talking about slavery, And he's talking about how...
But some societies, like
explain.
Koreans, they might have a God complex, but they don't have a history of oppression.
Are you fucking out of your mind?
What the fuck?
Koreans didn't have slaves.
Did Koreans have slaves?
Yeah, Google that.
Yeah, because I think that's fucking wrong.
We were kidding
Korea
about
had
the
the
Korean-
longest unbroken chain of slavery of any society in history, spanning 1,500 years. Fuck off.
That's not what it says. Zoom it in. My eyes are blurry. I want to read it, all right?
Read it out loud.
Korea had the longest unbroken chain of slavery of any society in history. Holy shit.
You guys are fucking...
You see how he just like assumed because he hadn't heard about it?
Yeah,
that-
ignorance.
Yeah. He just, I never hear about Koreans owning slaves, so that there's no way.
Right. And he's Korean.
He's Korean, yeah. We're the good guys.
Yeah.
We've never done nothing wrong. Yeah, that was funny.
But I wanted to show that in terms of how there is no real racism. That, and I say this, yes, racism exists.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is that that's not the core problem.
Yeah.
The core problem is our nature.
Mm.
It's not, racism is a byproduct.
This is what I always say, and I always talk to James about this. Like, to me, I think racism is a byproduct of in-group preference because everyone suffers from in-group preference. We all do it. We all do it. Even at the smallest level. I'm going to want to give resources to my family over your family, over their family, over the neighbor. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But then if I have enough for my family, now I want to give to my extended family. That's my in-group.
Yeah.
As opposed to the neighbor. You know what I mean? But then if I have more, then I want to give to my community. You know what I mean? That's my group. So there's always an in-group preference that we have. It's just, what is that group going to be? It's and I think some people have made their in-group their race, you know?
Yeah.
And that, so then it becomes, well, like, you know how like back in the day, I remember I used to do this all the time when you even like stupid stuff like watching anything, Wheel of Fortune, right? And there's one black guy on the thing. I want him to win just because he's the black guy. You know what I mean? Like, like I want him to win. You know what I'm saying? Like that's just an in-group preference mentality. We all do it, but I think when you deal with different power structures and hierarchies, it's going to manifest in different ways, and then it becomes oppressive, and then it becomes, we're gonna, like, if you go to China right now and you're not Chinese, there are certain things that you're not going to have access to. Same thing in Japan. If you're not Japanese, they're going to look at you a certain way, like because they care about their own first. You know what I mean?
And but even that, like, they care about their own, but then they care about their own the way they want to care about their own.
Yeah.
And if you don't fit the way they want to care about their own, then you don't fit. You're outside of that.
Yeah.
But I think that's all a nature that we were born into, which is sin.
Yeah.
It's the nature of Adam, right? Even look at it like Adam. Well, you look at the Bible, you have Adam and then the fall. Adam walked with God, right? And then he didn't.
Yeah.
So Adam walked with God. He was in the light. And then he wasn't. Then 4,000 years later, Jesus shows up. The light shows up. So now you have a way to walk with God again.
Right.
It's interesting because you think about Lazarus. You know, he talks about how there's 12 hours in a day.
Yeah.
You know, walk while you have the light. So you have this aspect of darkness and then light, right? You have this number 4 that keeps showing up.
Yeah.
In that, like, he was dead for 4 days. 4,000 years, 4 days. A year, 1,000 years is as a day, right? So you have this aspect of 4. 4 represents creation. 4, like, seasons, right?
Yeah.
The way things work in creation. It also represents a door. Again, entrance, how things come in. So I'm saying all this because we have to be born again. We have to come in again.
Yeah.
We have to come into Christ so that we can come back into the world and relate it in a different way.
Mm-hmm.
See it in a different way.
Right.
But we're stuck seeing it in terms of what we're familiar with.
Yeah.
Right? So that's how we relate to the world.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why we become biased.
Yeah.
Because we're always relating in that way.
Yep.
And when you see like the whole thing with America, and especially like slavery in America.
Yeah.
It's not unique. It might be unique in how it happened, but it's not unique.
Yeah.
How many times does this happen? And you see it, 1,500 years.
Yeah.
Like
the longest. Yeah. Simone said Koreans had slaves the longest. Yeah.
1,500 years?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
You know, so, but when you take that victimization, now you got something else to relate to the world.
Yeah.
So I'll relate based off of my victimhood. You're like me.
Mm-hmm.
We've been through the same thing.
Right.
Even though you don't know, because that person might be from Africa,
Right.
or their family might have been from Africa. But if they here for generations, we talk the same.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
A lot of times.
Mhm.
So we'll act the same depending on where they grew up.
Yeah.
Right? So now you relate, at least on that level.
Mm-hmm.
But then when you see white people, you relate to them in a different way.
Right.
And that's all sin.
Mm-hmm.
That's all a fall. That's a fallen state.
Yeah.
This is the problem we're in. You can't get past that. You're always going to see yourself in that way.
Right.
You're always going to, because that's where you get your identity from. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So I just thought it was interesting because like you're seeing this and then wondering y'all act like it's unique in this country or in any other country. No, it's not. It's actually better a lot of times than we thought we had it. But when you don't have a reference point and you're ignorant to these things, you make up your own way of seeing it.
Yeah.
Which sucks.
Right. Yeah, and that's nothing to take away from the atrocity that slavery was in this country. It's just, there's perspective throughout the world on these things.
Yeah, there's atrocity throughout the world.
Yeah. We live in a fallen world.
We live in a fallen world.
Yeah.
We live in a fallen world. So
yeah.
Why are we trying to...
Slavery's still going on now.
Yeah. So that's where like when believers will put that before or put anything, like even with Koreans, like it's funny how Koreans they'll come to America and then they'll have a Korean church and they'll stay in their Korean communities and they won't do any outreach in any other communities.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying all,
right,
but I'm saying there are a lot that do that.
They will open up some stores in black communities though. And that's, that's where a lot of the tension starts to rise up because...
But there's not outreach.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So like, then you get this dynamic of y'all only here to take our money, but you don't like us or support us. You know what I mean?
Right.
And then you got black people that get animosity towards the Koreans, and then they go in there, and because of the life they live, they do certain things that piss them off, and then it just becomes this tension. And you saw it play out in the LA riots in the 90s the first time.
Yep.
And
you see that's all our fallen nature.
Yeah.
That's all our old nature. But if you're a believer, you have to lay that stuff down. You have to deny that. Okay, I have to love these people.
Yeah.
No matter what. But how many people get caught up in just making assumptions over groups?
Yep.
You know what I mean? Oh, they black.
Yep.
They're this. And we joke about you can joke about
stereotypes. Yeah.
Because it's funny. But you can't make that your world in how you view things.
Yeah. I think you pointed out to show the quirks that we have that we don't even pay attention to.
Yeah.
You pointed out the show, like, these are silly things that we attach to identity for no reason.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, that's the reason to joke about stereotypes in that way. All right, so we got this clip from Ben Shapiro and Russell Brand. You wanted to play the beginning of this?
Yeah, I mean, I guess we'll just stop it when...
Because they go into they talk about slavery from the biblical aspect a little bit, yeah.
So again, I think that goes to the fundamental human good, meaning that if the the idea of
this is actually a really good like talk between them. If for people that want to check it out, it's on Ben Shapiro's channel. But they go into like ideology, Judaism. They talk about a lot of stuff. It's interesting.
Epistemic humility, that you should epistemological humility, that you should be humble in how you approach issues, and maybe you could be wrong.
Yeah,
I totally agree, and that I think is an issue, as I say, sometimes of morality, but very often of pragmatism. You just don't know. You don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I mean, there are limits to that. So, for example, you wouldn't say, a person who is holding a slave. Well, no problem. I mean, he's living how he wants to live. There are certain fundamental values that overrun the sort of cultural, the sort of global libertarianism.
And yet that is an example of a value that contemporaneously to the construction of these ideologies was literally accepted as ordinary.
So not to get into sort of the biblical analysis of slavery, but one of the I think most honest ways to read the Bible is as a document that was given to a particular set of people at a particular time, meaning that you have to look at what it's attempting to transform. Meaning if you look at the slavery and the society surrounding, it's a much more liberalized version of slavery that's in the Bible, and therefore a step toward the abolition of slavery, which is exactly how it's been read by every abolitionist preacher in the 19th century. It's been read by...
What do you mean, Israelites, Egypt stuff?
Well, I mean, yes, I mean that, and also even the scriptural, injunctions with regard to you own a slave. How long do you keep the slave? Do you for example, not to get too specifically biblical, but there's a whole section in the Bible where it talks about you are your master's servant, and 7 years go up. At the end of 7 years, you are automatically freed. Right? You can't have a term longer than 7 years in the Bible, and you are given a choice. Do you want to stay with your master or do you want to leave? And so the Bible says that if you want to stay, then we take an awl and we put it through your ear and we give you essentially an ear piercing. Okay, so it's a punishment. The idea is that you should have gone free. There's something wrong with you if you decide to stay in bondage. That's as opposed to the Code of Hammurabi. In the Code of Hammurabi, it's the opposite. If a slave attempts to escape and then is returned to the master, then the master puts the awl through his ear to demonstrate that he owns the slave. So in the Bible, it becomes a flip scenario where it's trying to encourage freedom. And again, it's speaking to a culture in which slavery is commonplace. And so the most honest way to read the Bible is to look at it as both an eternal guarantee in particular areas where it's speaking to basic human nature, and also as a transformative document to the customs of a time, because any document that you give is transformative to the customs of the time. I can't speak the language of astrophysics to people living in 1500 BCE. Right? So that I think is so it
has to be simultaneously allegorical while taking into account that it has
the practicality,
contemporary
yeah, and also you
application.
have to and you have to apply human reason to it in the sense that what you're looking at very often is issues of human nature versus inherent human nature, right? Human nature just exists. So, for example, do not murder is an all-time rule, right? That's not a transformative rule where murder is really common, so we're trying to minimize that. It's like, no, human beings want to murder, you're not allowed to murder. That's an all-time rule. As opposed to certain rules that are obviously an attempt to curb the worst practices of the time, maybe in pursuit of something better down the road. And so that's hard. I mean, it takes...
So, see how you have things that are accustomed, that you're accustomed to within your group or society. But how God works it is that he shows them, okay, these are the things that I want you to do so that you can come out of those things.
Right.
To practice these things, right? And the practices of these things prepare you for what's to come.
Yeah.
That's wisdom, right? Wisdom is preparation in what you do.
Yeah.
It's practice.
Right.
So you're practicing these things over and over again. You don't realize you're getting set up for freedom.
Yeah. You have a baby in a diaper because it poops itself.
Right.
But then you start teaching them the practice of going and sitting on the potty.
Wiping their butt.
That whole practice. Because you want them to be free of that diaper.
You want them to be free of... You want them to be independent and being able to do for themselves,
right,
and not be dependent on you in areas
right,
where they don't need to be.
Exactly.
And that's what God wants for us. In certain areas, he wants us to be able to do where we don't need him, but we're always going to need him.
Yeah, because there's always a next thing that you need to be independent from.
But we don't, it's like you don't need to be told something when you've become the essence of the thing. I don't need to be told, like just to murder. I don't need to be told not to murder.
Yeah.
If I would never murder, no matter what position I'm put in.
Right.
Some people will murder when they're put in certain positions. So you might need to know, don't murder.
Yeah.
Right? It's even the nature of man. You need to know, don't murder. But that's wisdom, right? Because that'll put you in positions that are going to affect your life.
Yeah.
Right? It's going to, so the wisdom is not to murder, right? It'll help you. But not only will it help you, it'll help you create an environment in which you grow, but everybody grows around you.
Yeah.
That's what it's about. It's about how can a community grow in the best way. So now you're seeing how America is breaking down and kind of, you want to deconstruct and you want to say, well, can we murder?
Yeah.
You know, well, it's all right.
It's okay if it's a baby in the womb.
Right.
It's okay if it's before this amount of weeks.
There you go.
Yeah.
It's okay if it's this or if it's that. Well, that's not really murder.
Right.
Because it's not really a baby. It's a fetus, but
Right.
a fetus means a baby.
Right.
Just in a
Right.
different language.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean? But when you got to separate people from cohesive or consciousness of things, right? So you got to say something in a way where it doesn't connect to their consciousness.
It absolves them of that responsibility.
In the commonality of their how they live their lives, right? It's not common for us to speak Greek or Latin.
Yeah.
Where a lot of these words we use, especially scientifically or medically, they're used. Why do they use that? Because it's not common.
It's a separation.
Therefore, it gives us a separation.
Yeah, right.
And it puts you in a place where you feel subservient. Right? That's why they use those things. Because why wouldn't you just speak to me in layman's terms?
Yeah.
You're doing that to bring a separation where you don't really need to.
Yeah.
Right?
It's absolutely not needed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you're that's what the world does. That's what a fallen nature does. It always has to have a hierarchy, an elitism or
yeah. I mean, there's a reason why the Roman Catholic Church only had the priests only spoke in Latin. The Bible was all in Latin because you weren't allowed to read it.
Yeah.
That was the hierarchy of it, was you had to go to the priest to hear the word.
Because it keeps you subservient.
Right.
And that's how you know these things they're not at the core they're not at the core essence of God, freedom or truths. That's what I'll say.
Okay.
Because the truth sets you free.
Yeah.
So the Lord is the Spirit, and where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is freedom. Right? So how do you know you're not moving in this or walking in the Spirit?
Yeah.
It's because you're taking the things that you've learned and using them against people. You're taking wisdom that came from God and you're perverting it to use it to subjugate
isn't that what the Watchers did?
Yeah.
So we know where that comes from.
Right.
Yeah.
And
that's what the light bearer does, right? He uses wisdom with the false sense of imparting knowledge on you, but it's really a form of control. So it's a way to be worshipped.
So you had this going on all throughout biblical times. And then you had this group of slaves that came out of slavery, but all around them, they're worshiping these angels, these fallen beings, right? And God sets these apart and they say, no, you do what I tell you, and I'm going to set you apart as my inheritance. And from there, first you're going to serve me, but you're first going to be servants, but eventually you'll become sons. You know what I mean? Like,
so I got a question. When we pierce our ears, because when he was telling that story, Are we marking ourselves as slaves?
That's where it came from.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's interesting.
Yeah, it is interesting.
Yeah.
And now, it becomes a thing. But
Yeah.
now it's just for fashion.
Right.
But then when you think, okay, but why do we do that?
Yeah.
And that's a lot of, but then again, but we're free.
Yeah.
Right. So I think the main point of anything is always about meaning.
Yeah.
If we don't have the essence of the meaning, we miss it.
Mhm.
And you don't have to have the meaning. See, that's where you can fall into that trap.
Yeah.
Where you feel like, well, if I don't have the meaning, well, then I'm not doing it.
Right.
Well, that's not a servant. That's not faithful.
Mm.
I'm faithful because he told me. That's obedience. I'm obedient. I'm faithful to do it, even though I might not get it, but I know I will get it. See, I know that I'm going to get it. I know that I'm going to get what he tells me I'm going to get. I trust him. And because I trust him, I'm faithful. The just shall live by faith.
Yeah.
And I think that kind of goes into this next part that he's going to talk about.
Takes human reason to apply to it, and this is why Judaism has an entire corpus of laws and regulations that are deterministic on this. I think that the thing that as a partisan of Judaism, the thing that I say that Judaism brings to the table, and I think that Judaism and Christianity come at it from opposite sides, and I'll make the case for Judaism, obviously.
No way.
Yeah, exactly. A shocker.
I'm leaving.
Spoiler alert.
I didn't come here for Judaism.
Is that what Judaism is really about? And you mentioned the commandments, and you kind of said, there's the commandments and there's making God real in your everyday life. That's what the commandments are supposed to do. So what Judaism says is that you are a human being with the capacity for great good and the capacity for great evil, right? You have literally the Yetzer Hara and the Yetzer HaTov. You have a desire for good and you have a desire for evil, and these two things are battling in you literally at all times. And what your job is to do is, regardless of what you believe, you do the thing. The thing that is in front of you is the thing that you do. Right, so we have this arcane set of rules, and this arcane set of rules is made to reify the presence of God in your life. And even if you don't recognize that's what it's doing, by you doing these things over and over, you're cultivating virtue through action. So it's like you reach God by doing the thing, whereas I think that Christianity almost comes at it backwards.
And through ceremony.
Right,
exactly.
exactly.
Through your behavior.
Through ritual, through all these things. And Christianity comes at it.
Can you do that speaking Hebrew chanting?
I mean, yes, but it wouldn't be entertaining to anybody. And then
you can't do it. You do that as part of your life. Could you reckon you could have been a rabbi?
I mean, there was a time when I was interested in being a rabbi, right? Coming out of high school.
Sort of are one, aren't you?
In a way, I mean, I have a lot of young Orthodox Jews who listen to the show for sure. But it's and I love studying the Bible and
that is where you would go for guidance. If it came to it, if it comes to a crisis with your children, or a crisis in your marriage, or a crisis in your heart, you're going to Judaism. Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's fair. Yeah. I think that's fair. I mean, in my understanding of Judaism, obviously, because who else's would apply? But it's I think Christianity comes at it from the other way, and there's a reward in it and there's a risk in it. The reward in it, Christianity says you believe the thing, therefore you do the thing. Judaism says you do the thing, therefore you believe the thing.
Wow.
Right. So
you
Judaism,
take the prescription and you will experience God.
Right.
Christianity, experience God, experience Christ.
And because you're doing that, then you'll do the good thing.
You do the right thing.
Right. And so the problem, cool. the reward of that is that the access point in some ways for Christianity is a lot easier, right? You experience a transcendent moment.
Yeah.
And now the transcendent moment is supposed to animate your life. The danger is transcendent moments disappear real fast, right? You have a transcendent moment, and right now you're feeling God, and then 5 minutes from now you are not feeling God, right? I mean, if that's the message of the Book of Exodus, where they receive the Torah, the Ten Commandments on Mount Sinai, and 5 minutes later they're building a golden calf, right? The transcendent moment ends, you're building a golden calf.
You idiots!
So I think he's right in a lot of the way he's saying it.
Yeah.
But he obviously he doesn't get it.
Yeah.
Because if he did, he wouldn't be a Jew.
Yeah.
Or I say in the sense of Judaism.
Yeah.
Not because you're going to be a Jew.
Yeah.
In terms of ethnicity. Right. But I mean, you understand what I mean.
Yes, I know what you mean.
So, again, I was talking about this earlier, wisdom, right? It's wisdom to do what you're told, right? The word of God was given. Jesus said, we worship a God we do know.
Yeah.
Salvation is of the Jews, right? So salvation came through the Jews because they were the placeholder. Why were they the placeholder? Because they were stewards. They were faithful. They weren't perfect.
Right.
They messed up. It was actually God who continued to come after them as they messed up because they were totally kicked out of the land, right? But here's where the disconnect is: prophecy. They denied the prophets, right?
Mm-hmm.
Over and over again. The prophets didn't even understand what they were prophesying.
Right.
It says in Peter that they desired to look into these things,
Mm-hmm.
that they prophesied, right? So the spirit of prophecy is the testimony of Jesus. The spirit of prophecy is the testimony of Yeshua or salvation.
Right.
Right? But salvation is of the Jews. So they were a placeholder of faithfulness or servitude, service, servitude, slavery.
Right.
Slavery until Christ came.
Mm-hmm.
When Christ came, they were set free. Why were they slaves? Because they were slaves to sin.
Mm-hmm.
You cannot come out of slavery. You cannot change who you are.
Right.
But what you can do is practice who you will be.
Mm-hmm.
You get what I mean?
Yeah.
They practice who they were going to be. But that's faith.
Right.
So God says to do these things. If you do these things, that's faith.
Mm-hmm.
And eventually, the hope is, I'm going to transform you. We don't transform ourselves. He transforms us. So I think like the disconnect is that they didn't get prophecy, right?
Yeah.
Because it's the testimony of Jesus. It's the disconnect is you aren't supposed to continue as servants. You're actually supposed to transform into sons.
Mm.
That's why Jesus says that whom the Son sets free is free indeed. That slave or the servant doesn't stay in the house forever,
Right.
but the Son does. So he teaches us how to be, through Jesus, we learn how to be sons. You can't have that any other way. The experience that we have causes us to believe. What's the experience? It's in our heart. Because now what happens? What was outwardly that we did now becomes a part of us.
Mm-hmm.
It could never become a part of us if our nature is different. So now God changes us from the inside out. But at first you don't see it. Right? Who sees it? When people are saved, people are born again or saved, you don't see a change.
Mm-hmm.
You don't see a change. You might see people get like, I'm saying you don't see outwardly something change, right?
Yeah.
People might get more like gung-ho,
Mm-hmm.
but they still got the same quirks.
Mm-hmm.
They still got the same things they're dealing with. Sometimes you'll see a change in terms of like, if they're on drugs, there'll be a quick change. Why? Because they're not able to handle it. So God will do a work, right? You'll see miracles like that.
Well, Black China got rid of all her plastic surgery.
There you go. You'll see a change. What? That was something she was faithful in,
Mhm.
right? But what I'm saying is that you're not going to see the fruit yet,
Mhm.
but the fruit comes,
Right.
you know, and then eventually you'll start to see this transformation. But what a lot of people do is they point, see, you're fake
Mhm.
because you keep doing this.
Yeah.
See, you're not.
You're a hypocrite.
You're a hypocrite. Yeah, because I'm a child learning.
Mhm.
Children are hypocrites,
Yeah.
right? If you can't, so then you're wondering why. Well, if God was God, why wouldn't you do the things that Jesus did?
Mm.
Because God's not going to empower a child that's not able and doesn't understand what to do with that power.
Yeah.
It's going to use that power because they're not mature enough yet. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So it's interesting when he talks about this, and even the connection to slavery,
Mhm.
because we have to know that although we are this way, there's hope.
Yeah.
That we're changing. So then people can't hold it against you.
Right.
And Black China says she doesn't want to be called that anymore. Angela White.
Yeah, her name's Angela.
White. Something White.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But what happens when these people go through these changes,
Mhm.
right? They get picked apart.
Oh, absolutely.
They get
a lot
picked
of people,
apart.
A lot of people are, questioning her motives.
Yeah.
I saw something where she just had go get like a Baphomet tattoo removed.
Yeah.
Like,
but I think that's the fallen nature.
Yeah.
The fallen nature always wants to judge, but at the same time, the fallen nature doesn't want you to judge yourself.
Right.
You can't judge me, but I'm going to judge everybody else.
All right. Like 2 hours and 16 minutes. That's it. That's all we had, right?
Yeah. I had a video, those other videos, but we could do that.
Oh, you sent me other videos?
I sent you stuff with Patrick Ben David.
Oh, for real?
More stuff. He was talking about he's talking about Christian stuff. Talking about we had Charlie Kirk on there.
Yeah, he had Charlie Kirk on there. Yeah, I saw
so
that.
I took some clips from that.
Okay.
But we could talk about that next week. It
Okay.
kind of goes into the same thing. They were talking about like, why don't we have more Christian leaders in culture?
Yeah. That's something that we talk about all the time. Like the church has to take up its place in these institutions.
Yeah.
And that's the only way we're going to change the culture there.
Yeah. I will say that our old nature wants to go where we're appreciated, and liked, honored, and
retreat to our group
and comfortable.
Yeah.
So it's hard when we live in America. That wants comforts. That's why it's hard to see these things. I think it takes people who are willing to suffer and go into these places and suffer.
Yeah. And get all the darts, all the, persecution that you're going to get.
Right.
Yeah.
That's what I think we're in that time. Like, I think we're in that time that you're going to see that, but it's not going to come without suffering.
Yeah.
You're going to have to suffer.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of people that are starting to be raised up that are willing to, like, they don't
Go
care.
through the-
They're willing. Yeah. Man. Yeah, that was good, man. Shout out to everybody who's been watching. We appreciate y'all, man. Make sure you guys hit that like button, share the video. Don't forget, we have the Patreon. If you want to become a member, sign up. Go head on over there and become a Young Lion. There's plenty of tiers to sign up for. Patreon.com/YoungLionTV. All of your support helps us grow this thing, grow this community of the Young Lions, the pride of the Young Lions that we all can be a part of. And we eventually want to do some meetups and things like that. And, we got some shows coming up for Jatan that we want to see all the Young Lions at. Last time we did one, it was awesome to have you guys come through. Shout out to Emma and Courtney who are watching right now. Moan, everybody else, appreciate y'all. Don't forget Jatan.com for music and merch. We just got a new song out, release. Go stream that thing everywhere. Get the merch. And yeah, we'll see you guys next week, man. Peace.
Young Lion, go live, yeah. Young Lion, you rich, yeah. This king